Brown-Reinsel, and I'm happy to be able to show technique on YouTube for you. I'm going to show you the invisible cast-on, which is actually a type of provisional cast-on. Provisional cast-ons are used when you want to knit in one direction for a while and then pick up stitches from the cast-on edge and knit in the other direction. This can be quite useful sometimes. So this is one of many ways to do a provisional cast-on. I start off with a slip knot with a contrast color yarn and my main color yarn, which is the white yarn. And I'm going to hold the waste yarn closer to my body, and the yarn that I want to keep for the main color will be further away over my forefinger. I'm holding the yarns as though I were going to do the long tail method. And I want to tell you that there are 4 steps to this cast on, and it makes 2 stitches at a time. And I'm going to describe the needle movement, not the yarn movement. And after every step of the 4 steps, bring your needle up in between the 2 yarns, just for clarity until you really get the idea of this cast on. So I'm going to take my needle and go over and behind the back yarn, over and in front of the front yarn, over and behind the back yarn, and now under the front yarn. Again, over and behind the back yarn, over and in front of the front yarn, over and behind the back yarn, under the front yarn. Over, 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 under. Over, 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 under. Now, if you just put this down, you're going to lose your cast on. So make sure that you keep the waste yarn wrapped around the needle, wrapped around the other yarn, so that you don't lose those stitches, and immediately knit them with your main color yarn. Don't let go of the slip knot, or you might lose a stitch. Here's an example that I knitted showing this invisible cast on. I've knitted a few rows, and so you can see that if I want to knit in the opposite direction now, I can just slip these stitches onto a needle. Here's my slip knot. I would just pull that out and slip the stitches onto the needle. Now, one thing you want to realize is that this particular cast on twists every other stitch. Here you can see a stitch, and note that this is the right side of the stitch and this is the left side of the stitch. So typically knitters work with the right side of the stitch in front of the needle. Now if you work the combination method, you have the left side of the stitch in front of the needle. So both ways are correct, it's just being consistent, knowing your style. So the provisional cast on causes every other stitch to be twisted, so you want to put all the stitches on your needle and then go through again and make them all consistent on the way that they are oriented on the needle. Here I've slipped some of the stitches onto another needle from the holding yarn, from the invisible cast on. And if you can see, some of the stitches seem to be angled, and that's because the left side of the stitch is in front of the needle rather than the right side of the stitch. This stitch is oriented the way I normally knit, which is the right side of the stitch in front of the needle, so I'll just slip that off purlwise. The next stitch, you can see that the left side of the stitch is in front of the needle, and I'm going to slip that from the back so that that causes the right side of the stitch to be in front now. The next one is normal for my way of knitting, and again the next stitch has the left side of the stitch in front of the needle, so I'm going to slip it over from the back. I'd like to thank you for joining me for this tutorial. I hope you learned something and you enjoyed it. You can also check me out on my website, www.knittingtraditions.com, and you can can sign up for my newsletter there. You can also purchase my book and my DVD on my website or